Now to switch gears to more fun stuff, right? This is the entertainment portion of the show. He comes and goes on a rainbow. It is Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, right? And Michael Snyder's report is sponsored by the Comic Book Boys. Michael Snyder, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, Kim. And yeah, the Comic Book Boys are in as a sponsorship on the Culture Blast segment for the MTS. And, I'm a big comic book fan and collector. I have always been that way. I taught myself to read as a toddler via Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge
What?
comics written and drawn by the great Carl Barks. And I collected zillions of them, but, it got to be a bit much. And I wanted to monetize my collectibles. So I reached out to the Comic Book Boys, and they are located in a very cool warehouse headquarters in Southern California. And they can tell you what the worth of individual comics and collections are. They buy collections in toto. They sell comics on consignment. And if you're in Southern California, you can bring your comic books to them or arrange for them to look over what you have. And I got to say, depending on what they're working with at any given time, the warehouse is a wonderland if you go there. When I was there, I saw some amazing vintage books in mint or near mint condition that they were selling at impressive prices. And it's kind of like you're looking at these things from, like, I don't know, 1948. Mark says he has a Batman comic from the 40s. He has yet to show it to me, and I am going to probably push the issue next time I'm over at Shea
That's not
Thompson.
fake. That's real.
It's kind of like a peek at a corner of American cultural history. And if you have enough comics and you're anywhere in the continental U.S., they can arrange to transport your collection to their warehouse. Chris is there, one of the boys. He's great. They are fans. They're collectors. I always felt I was among friends while dealing with them. And if you're interested in seeing if they can help you with your collection, check them out at cbbauctions.com, cbbauctions.com. They're the Comic Book Boys.
Awesome.
There you go.
All right. Let's move into the movies. What do we got?
First I got to say, you mentioned it earlier. Passover starts this Saturday evening.
Yes.
And it's the week-long celebration of the exodus of the Israelites from bondage in Egypt back in the BC. And I know it sounds kinky, bondage, but it was, a bad slavery thing.
Your iron rod.
God sent 10 plagues to convince Pharaoh and the Egyptians to let the Israelites go. Frogs, locusts, blood, cooties. I think thinning hair was one of the plagues. Maybe that's just what I'm dealing with. Anyway, if you've seen the 10 Commandments, you know the story. I just want to wish a happy Passover to the Jewish community, although I don't know how anyone with a palate could be happy about what's on the table at the Seder dinner. Kosher food and haute cuisine are mutually exclusive. Seriously. Maybe indigestion is one of the plagues. Anyway, all right, I got that out of my system. I just wanted to acknowledge Passover because it's a big deal this weekend for many of
happy Passover. Wonderful.
friends. We should get to movies, and I want to kick off with an incredibly impactful and relevant film called Warfare. And it is a no-nonsense powerhouse plunge into a firefight in the middle of the Iraq War, or Iraq War, if you prefer. And it's based on the recollections of soldiers who survived the conflict, especially Ray Mendoza, who co-wrote and co-directed it with Alex Garland, the writer-director responsible for, among other things, Civil War and 28 Days Later. So modern filmmaking techniques place you inside the mission, and an ensemble of up-and-coming actors, some of whom you might recognize, deliver the grit and the humanity. Some of these guys are out there working and pretty well known. DeFero Awunatai is one of them. Will Poulter, who has been in a Marvel movie or two. Cosmo Jarvis, who was the British guy in the miniseries Shogun. These are talented guys. Michael Gandolfini, James's kid, and he's currently in Daredevil Born Again. They're all in this troupe. And I have to tell you, this is resolutely brutal and uncompromising and not for the faint of heart, but it is a stunning achievement. If you ever wanted to know what it was like to be in the middle of war, Warfare is one of the most vivid, recreations of that circumstance. It's in theaters right now, and I think it should be experienced in theaters by those who are interested precisely for its immersive quality. High marks to Warfare.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds like it definitely is something that'll leave an impact on you after you see it, right?
Yeah, a couple of the other actors, Joseph Quinn, who's going to be in the upcoming Fantastic Four film as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. He's one of the troupe. Charles Melton. It's a great cast, and they disappear into these roles as soldiers in the middle of this madness. And
No.
powerful. All
Good.
right. As the Amateur spins its tale of espionage and international intrigue, plausibility takes a leap out the window like one of Putin's Russian thugs pushed it. You know what I mean? The Amateur
Yeah.
is not bad. I mean, it has some really intriguing moments, and it's
Yeah.
anchored by some decorated actors led by Rami Malek in the high-tech expert under fire mode of his character in the TV series Mr. Robot, rather than, the flamboyance of his Oscar-winning portrayal of the Queen lead singer Freddie Mercury. This is not rock and roll. The supporting cast features Lawrence Fishburne, John Bernthal, Rachel Brosnahan. That's right. Midge Maisel is in this thing, and Michael Stolberg, but they don't get anywhere near a lot of screen time. That's all on Malik as Charlie Heller, a CIA code expert in Langley, whose wife, played by Brosnahan, is, and it's not a spoiler alert, it happens at the top of the film. She's killed in a terrorist attack while she's on a business trip to London.
What?
So he's rebuffed by his bosses when he demands that they go after the terrorists. So Charlie takes it upon himself to seek vengeance. I know he's kind of a skinny, wiry little guy. You don't think he has what it takes, but he's going to track down and eliminate the villains despite nothing more than a brief course of training by a cynical agent played by Fishburne. Of course, there are vague and convoluted reasons why the CIA agrees to leave it all to Charlie. Director James Hawes has worked on some of my absolute favorite TV shows, including Slow Horses, Snowpiercer, Penny Dreadful, and Black Mirror and Doctor Who. Both of the latter two both have new seasons up this weekend. He's good at his job, Hawes, and he keeps things moving here. But the formula embracing script and the limitations of telling a story this globe spanning and potentially sprawling in the time allotted a feature film, even one coming in at 2 hours, they kind of undermine the final product. It
Mm.
felt like there was too much going on. To be honest, I think The Amateur would have probably worked better as a mini series, and I won't call it amateurish. A little disappointing, but I thought, it does have some value. It just isn't what it might have been. The Amateur is in theaters. It opens wide today.
That's a
Uh,
disappointment because I was kind of wanting to see this one, so I'm sad that you didn't really love it.
no, it has its moments. It really does.
Mm.
But, I just could have been so much better. I feel like it was a missed opportunity. All right, are
Yeah.
you ready? Are you
Yeah,
ready? My,
I'm
my
ready.
favorite movie of the weekend, I think, it was Drop, and it's coming out
Hmm.
today in theaters, and it is shockingly good. I thought it was going to be some kind of silly exploitation, but its last reel almost goes off the rails. But Drop is one of those unexpected delights that ends up being better than many movies that seem to have more impressive pedigrees. It certainly was a blast to watch, really. Drop is a tension packed, creatively shot thriller that could not have been made 20 years ago because so much of its story relies on invasive, genuine, up to the minute tech to enable its threats. Yeah, there are no really bankable stars here, but no problem. The cast features a handful of talented actors who have done some solid work on TV shows, starting with Megan Fahey, who earned an Emmy nomination for her role on The White Lotus season 2. In Drop, she plays Violet, a widowed mom on a first date at a fancy skyscraper restaurant in Chicago. And Kim, this is clearly one of the worst first dates ever, since right in the middle of it, she gets a message dropped on her phone from someone in the vicinity. The message instructs her that she must perform a number of tasks while at dinner, ending with a command to kill her date, or her sister and young son will be killed back at her house.
What?
Oh.
Yeah. So the date is a handsome fellow played by Brandon Sklenar, and he, he seems like, it's the dream date. Remember, you used to have that little game girls would play called Dream Date. This guy
Hmm.
seems like the real deal. He's like a photojournalist type. He's good looking. He's charming. He's, very, very gallant.
He
But she's got a killer.
he
Um,
plays the hunk in the Yellowstone spinoff in 1936, I think it is.
Yeah, right. I remember him
Hmm.
with, yeah,
Yeah.
he was on It Ends With Us. He's been out in the marketplace for a little while, but
What he's
this
Hmm.
is
got going
giving him a
here is a
little
situation.
this
Yep,
is
we
giving him
do.
a bit of a spotlight. Drop was directed by Christopher Landon from a very lean and canny script by Gillian Jacobs and Christopher Roach. The plotting is intricate yet never confusing. The excitement is palpable, and it's really easy to be invested in Violet and cheer her on in this, I call it an untenable, deadly situation. Drop is in theaters. It's the sort of reason you go to the movies. I mean,
Oh,
one of the
wow.
main reasons I go to the movies is be entertained, enjoy yourself, have some fun, and Drop has you on the edge of your seat. It's pretty cool. So,
You got me on this one. It's on the list, Michael. It's on the list now.
okay. All
Okay.
right. A fresh entry in the bare bones indie comedy of discomfort genre. I think that's really a genre.
Mm.
Sacramento. Hey, Northern California residents and audience members. Sacramento is a neurotic buddies on the road picture with the distinct advantage of four capable performers taking on the tidy script co written by the movie's director and one of its two male leads, Michael Angarano. And you've seen him in various movies and shows. And here he plays a sort of aging lost boy named Ricky, who has no girlfriend, no prospects, and no direction. His somewhat estranged buddy is Glenn, played by the always nerdy Michael Cera. I mean, you're in for moments of cringe, especially since Glenn is a bundle of angst with a very precarious job situation and a pregnant, albeit super competent wife. And by the way, the wife is played by no less than Kristen Stewart, who subtly conveys the sort of love and patience you'd have to need to be married to a train wreck like Glenn. I mean, really. If the movie is a bit slight, it only runs 90 minutes and it does manage to convey the scary nature of facing adult responsibilities like parenthood as the bickering Ricky and Glenn drive from LA to Sacramento with the ostensible mission to scatter Ricky's late father's ashes in his hometown. At least that's what Ricky says he wants to do in order to convince Glenn to join him. And the trip is increasingly an uncomfy ride as Ricky plays on Glenn's anxieties, manipulating him to elongate the journey for reasons that eventually come to light, and for reasons that involve a character played by the engaging Maya Erskine of TV's Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Yeah, four really
Hmm.
good performers here. In some ways, Sacramento is like seeing two versions of Kieran Culkin's tragically annoying character in A Real Pain on a road
Mm.
trip together. And you know what? That's actually pretty cool. Sacramento is in select theaters, and I hope one of them is in Sacramento, considering the location of the movie.
Recommended.
Yeah, to an extent, for sure.
Okay.
You may get that skin crawling feeling when these two guys are, kind of going at it. But here's a movie I really can't recommend, although you may want to watch it for, I don't know, well, I'll explain why you may want to watch it. It's called Gunslingers, and it's a derivative, forgettable Western that's set in the early 1900s, wherein a shady character named Thomas Keller, played by Stephen Dorff, is wanted for the New York City murder of a certain wealthy fellow. So he goes on the lam and ends up hiding out in a small Kentucky town among other questionable characters until a posse led by his brother comes a looking for him and all hell breaks loose. So other familiar faces in Gunslingers besides Dorff include Heather Graham as a woman with a stake in Keller's fate, Costas Mandylor as a town bigwig, C. Ma in a very bad wig as the town sheriff, and here's the reason to watch, Nicolas Cage. I mean, there is always a certain pleasure watching Cage in full bull goose loony mode. And though it's little more than a cameo, as this kind of weirdly twitchy, gravel voiced gunman who has renounced violence, turned to photography, and embraced Jesus, he just doesn't disappoint. I mean, the movie is, a cast off, but I mean, Cage is so compelling, even when he's thoroughly off the wall, which he often is. So if Gunslingers is a Western retread that's primarily an extended shootout in one grubby locale with a little bit of brotherly angst thrown in, Cage doesn't care. I mean, he has another more promising movie coming out shortly called The Surfer. So, hey, let's cash a paycheck and have a little fun. As for the B movie
Oh.
director, screenwriter Brian Skiba, and the movie Gunslingers, the movie is mostly a dud. Maybe we should call it a C movie. And one more quick casting note: a blonde, somewhat appealing actress named Scarlett Stallone. Scarlett Stallone plays the daughter of Mandy Lore's character, and yes, she is the daughter of one Sylvester Stallone. I'm just surprised he didn't name her Adrian.
Yeah. Is she good in it?
She's okay. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
uh, are you good while covered with bird droppings? I don't know. It's sort of that's, I guess, a comparison here. Um, Gunslingers is in select theaters and available for streaming on demand if you want, and you may want. I don't know. Okay,
So
I'm going to just
is it recommended, or is it a I
No,
didn't
it's really no, it's
I
not
didn't
very
hate it?
good. It's not
No,
very
not
good.
good. No.
I didn't hate it because I had a chance to watch, Nick Cage go bonkers, but it
Uh-huh.
really is not a very good. I mean, we've been there before.
Yeah.
It's not a really good movie. Kind of a movie I'm sort of on the fence about is Zero, which is about a couple of Americans who come to consciousness separately in Dakar, Senegal, with bombs strapped to their chests.
Oh.
And a voice in their
What?
phones is telling them that they have to do a variety of tasks that is going to actually cause a political uprising, get worse in Dakar, or they're going to get blown up, or worse. And it's kind of interesting. The voice on the phones is courtesy of Willem Dafoe. And that's kind of a high end piece of
Mhm.
casting. But everybody else is like, who is this guy? I don't know who this guy. Who is this guy? So the guy who we first meet with a bomb strapped to his chest is played by Huss Miller. The second guy is sort of like looks like a World Wrestling Federation villain, played by Cam McHarg, and not a lot of familiar faces, but it's kind of well shot by the director Jean-Luc Herbalou, and this guy Herbalou. And he also co-wrote it with Huss Miller. And I wouldn't call it a vanity project. It certainly seems to want to point out the dicey geopolitical situation we all face. There's a
Mhm.
lot of issues about theocracy and the people being oppressed in African nations, including Senegal. There are moments, and there's a lot of tension, and there are some explosions, but it doesn't totally congeal for me. It is in fact in theaters and also available for streaming. It's called Zero. It's interesting, and I guess I'm kind of damning with faint praise, but it certainly kept my attention. Let's just wrap up
Mhm.
by talking about a documentary that I was completely caught up in. It's called One to One, John and Yoko. And it is a documentary directed by Kevin MacDonald, who has done some narrative films like The Last King of Scotland, but he's also done some documentary work. And it is utilizing archival audio and video and some recreations. It is a look at the almost 2 years that John Lennon and Yoko Ono spent in New York in the early 1970s living in Greenwich Village. This is before they moved to the Dakota. This is before little Sean was born. This is when John and Yoko were trying to get her custody of Kyoko, her daughter from her first marriage. And it's also very much about Lennon's only post Beatles concert where he wasn't just a guest star, the One to One concert, which was meant to basically raise funds for disadvantaged children. And I have to tell you, I was just fascinated by it. It seems like we may be entering the era of Beatles documentary Overkill. But the performances by Lennon and his backup band, quite good. And by the way, that concert also featured guest appearances by, among other people, Sha Na Na and Stevie Wonder, who comes out and sings on Give Peace a Chance. But what's really interesting is to see how genuinely committed this very privileged couple was to important socio-political causes. The freeing of political prisoners. Money diverted to orphanages that were mistreating kids. Ending the war in Vietnam. It's really a vivid recreation of that time, and it shows what sort of people they really were. And it also touches on how hated Yoko Ono was by
Mhm.
Beatles fans. She was disdained by other members of the group from what she says in various interviews here. And, people look down on her despite her career as an artist, very respected, very innovative. I thought it was pretty fantastic. And, it's episodic. It's not for everyone. It's a tiny little slice of the John Lennon story, but it's still pretty cool, and you can see it in select theaters, including IMAX.
Oh, cool. And that was one-to-one John and Yoko.
Yes, indeed, it was.
I think that you are the one that recommended a streaming option for me called The Pit.
I did
Are
not,
you?
but I am a big fan
Oh,
of Noah Wiley, and
it
I
was
do believe it's been praised in other corners.
it's so good. I for some reason I thought it was you, but yeah. So I am looking forward to your streaming options and hoping that you might have some more good stuff to recommend.
I have one of my absolute favorite shows in recent memory, The Studio. Now, as someone who, we don't have to get into details, works in the film and television industry doing, writing and development stuff,
Mhm.
specifically animation. And as someone who's on studio lots when I'm in Los Angeles for screenings and for meetings, The Studio is hilarious and creepily accurate. It is part of what we would have to call, as we discussed earlier, the comedy of discomfort, which is a kind of genre that basically became something codified with the British sitcoms, The Office, which of course spawned
Mhm.
an American version and various other international versions, and Peep Show, where the lead characters are kind of creepy, can't get out of their own way. And in The Studio, Seth Rogen, who I'm not a big fan of, but he is brilliantly cast here as Matt Remick, who has just been appointed head of Continental Studios after a shakeup, and his longtime mentor, played by the great Catherine O'Hara, has been pushed out, and reciprocally, he gives her an independent production deal with the studio, so she's around in the series. His best buddy for many years is his assistant. He's played by Ike Barinholtz. It is hilarious. It is creative. It's an inside baseball thing in terms of how things go down in Hollywood, and it is, I guess, of the moment, and it does some really intriguing things. The second episode, those spoilers. And by the way, I want to point out that, as in some of these kind of docu comedies or mockumentaries,
Mhm.
we have a number of Hollywood actors and directors playing themselves, all kind of sucking up to the character of Matt Remick to get their projects made at the studio. And that includes, of all people, you got to love it, the esteemed Sarah Polley, who appears in the second episode as herself, directing a movie wherein she needs to get a tracking shot. That's one long shot during golden hour. And um, Rogan, as Remick, keeps messing up the shot. And the entire episode is one long tracking shot. In addition to it being about a tracking shot, the creativity is brilliant. and no less than Martin Scorsese appears in the first episode. One of the things this movie does is show the absurdity of what goes on in Hollywood now. I'm always complaining about, intellectual property and trying to use a brand to sell something to build a franchise. In the first episode, the head of the corporation that has acquired the studio, and he's played by Bryan Cranston,
No.
wants to do a movie series built around the character of the Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah, the big giant picture that busts through walls and what have
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
And and Matt decides to try to get Scorsese to do the Kool-Aid Man movie. And I won't say anything more than that, but it's pretty inspired. Every episode has been off the charts great so far. High recommendations for The Studio, which is visible on Apple TV. And it's been directed and co-written by Rogen and his longtime partner, Evan Goldberg. At least most of the episodes have been. And it also includes, among other people, the great and talented Catherine Hahn as a studio flunky. High marks.
Okay, The Studio.
I
Wonderful.
got it. I have another one for you. I like
Okay.
crime stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mobland at Paramount Plus, it was originally conceived as a prequel to Ray Donovan, talking about how the Donovan family ended up, deep in crime and in Boston, here in the United States. And it was retooled by Ronan Bennett to become a contemporary crime drama about a battle between two families in London trying to control the criminal trade there. And oh, what a cast. Tom Hardy plays the fixer, who might be the kind of proto Ray Donovan type, the head of one of the families. And man, what a career resurgence, played by Pierce Brosnan in a brilliant performance that embodies the viciousness of this gangland leader. His wife, played by Helen Mirren. That's right, Dame Helen Mirren
Wow.
plays not so much Amal, but his partner. Brosnan's character's partner in crime.
Mm-hmm.
It is aces. Patty Considine plays one of the Brosnan character's sons. It's an extended crime family. Mobland has everything I like in one of these sorts of shows. It's available currently on Paramount Plus. Again, big recommendation. And, I mentioned Doctor Who earlier. It's back for its second season with Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, and he is joined by a new companion. He is the alien who travels through time and space in what looks like a police box from the 60s in the UK. And,
Right.
it doesn't matter whether it's the past or the future or alien worlds or on Earth. And he usually has a human companion. And this time it's a nurse, amusingly enough, a doctor with a nurse. And
Mm-hmm.
she's Belinda Chandra, and she's played by Virata Sethu of Andor, who is a really wonderful actress. But she doesn't want to travel with them. Usually they're all eager. Oh, yeah, man, how exciting. I'm going to see the universe. No, she wants to just get back home. And it looks incredibly promising. Doctor Who is back, and it's back on Disney Plus and on the BBC player. So I think that pretty much wraps things up for
All right.
today.
Let's recap it. You say, as far as movies go, Warfare is a stunning achievement. You called it vivid and powerful and a really great movie to see in theaters. The Amateur, you said it's got a little too much going on. Better it would have been as a mini series, and it was a little disappointing to you that you called it a missed opportunity. Drop was your favorite movie of the weekend. You said this kind of movie is the reason you go to movies in the first place. Drop. Sacramento, you called it cringy, but it's got a great cast and you recommend it. That's Sacramento. For Gunslingers, this Nicolas Cage movie, you said he's so good in it. You said the movie is a bit of a retread, but Cage, good.
Well, I do want to
Although,
point out. I want to point out, Kim, it's a small role. He's one of an ensemble,
all
but
right. But no, you don't recommend it. You said no.
not
You're
really.
not going for that. No.
No.
Zero. I got the meh feeling from you on Zero.
There were things about it I liked, and things about it where I kind of shrugged. And
Mhm.
it was a noble attempt at making a thoughtful geopolitical action film with explosions, but
Gotta love that. 1-to-1, John and Yoko. You love that it highlighted their commitment to causes. You said it's a fantastic movie and you really loved it. Again, that's 1-to-1, John and Yoko. It's a
yeah,
documentary.
yeah,
Mhm.
fantastic music sequences and insightful. But it's just a tiny slice of his life, though.
For streaming, you say The Studio from Apple TV is inspired. You loved this one. It's a comedy of discomfort with Seth Rogen. You're recommending The Studio again on Apple TV. And Mobland, you loved this one too on Paramount Plus. Great cast. You called it Aces. You recommend Mobland on Paramount Plus. And there you go. That is it. The movie recommendations, and go Giants, yeah?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And go Warriors. They have to win tonight and they have to actually beat the Clippers on Sunday. The Giants are at Yankee Stadium tonight. Titans, both former, well, the Giants as a former New York franchise, going back home, question mark, and we'll see what they can do. The new look Giants, with the resurgence of young Jung Hoo Lee. And, I'm excited about both teams, but, we never know until the game is played, do we?
We don't. You can find more of Michael's writing at thevoicesf.org, thevoicesf.org. And this report is sponsored by the Comic Book Boys. You can find them online, cbbauctions.com. Thank you, Michael Snyder.
You're very welcome, Kim. Everyone have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back with you next Friday.
He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye, Michael Snyder. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for everything. So awesome. Love to have him on the show.